The journey of a soul that refuses to be shaken by hatred and rejection is not an easy one. It is a path carved by fire, tested by storms, and refined in the crucible of suffering. Such a soul is rare, for most people crumble under the weight of scorn and betrayal. But the unshakable soul does not merely endure, it rises above, transformed into something greater. From the beginning, rejection has been a defining force in human existence. To be cast aside, misunderstood, or despised is a wound that cuts deeper than any physical pain. Rejection feeds on insecurity, whispering that one is unworthy, unloved, and alone. Hatred, on the other hand, is the fire that seeks to consume, to destroy, and to reduce the soul to ashes. The world is full of both, and no one escapes unscathed. But there are those who take rejection and hatred not as defeats but as stepping stones toward a profound awakening. The unshakable soul understands a truth that many fail to grasp: the opinions of others do not define one's worth. This soul is not governed by external validation or the fickle approval of society. Instead, it finds its foundation in something deeper, an unbreakable connection to a higher truth, a divine purpose, or an inner conviction so strong that no amount of rejection can uproot it. This strength is not born overnight. It is forged in the loneliness of exile, in the pain of being misunderstood, in the silent suffering of standing apart from the crowd. The great souls of history, prophets, visionaries, revolutionaries, have walked this path. They have been ridiculed, condemned, and even persecuted, yet they stood firm, unmoved by the tides of hatred. Why? Because they understood that rejection is often the price of authenticity. To live according to one's deepest truth is to invite opposition. The world does not favor those who refuse to conform. It fears them. The unshakable soul is a threat to the comfortable illusions that most people cling to. When someone dares to rise above mediocrity, to shine with a light that is not of this world, the darkness reacts. It seeks to extinguish that light, to bring it down through mockery, slander, and exclusion. But the unshakable soul does not dim its light to please others. It continues to shine, undeterred by rejection, because it knows that the purpose of light is to illuminate, not to seek approval. To reach this state of unshakable strength, one must undergo transformation. The first step is detachment. The soul must learn to detach from the need for external affirmation. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent, rather, it is the realization that true validation comes from within, from alignment with one's own values and purpose. The second step is endurance. Rejection will come, sometimes in waves, sometimes in brutal, unexpected blows. But the unshakable soul does not react with bitterness or self-pity. It stands firm, knowing that each wound is a lesson, each attack an opportunity to refine itself. The third step is transcendence. This is where the soul truly rises above hatred. It does not fight back with the same weapons used against it. It does not seek revenge, nor does it waste energy on proving its worth to those who refuse to see it. Instead, it operates from a place of inner peace. It understands that hatred is a reflection of the one who harbors it, not of the one who receives it. The unshakable soul feels compassion for those who reject it, recognizing that their hostility is often born from fear, ignorance, or their own unhealed wounds. Forgiveness becomes a defining trait of the unshakable soul. Not the shallow, forced forgiveness that masks unresolved pain, but a deep, genuine release of resentment. This forgiveness does not excuse the actions of those who cause harm, but it frees the soul from the chains of hatred. The unshakable soul refuses to be poisoned by bitterness. It chooses love, not as an emotional weakness but as the ultimate strength. But what of the loneliness that often accompanies this journey? To walk a path that few understand can be isolating. The unshakable soul knows this well, yet it does not despair. It finds companionship not in the fleeting approval of the masses but in the silent presence of the divine, in the wisdom of those who walked before, and in the quiet knowing that it is never truly alone. There comes a moment when the unshakable soul realizes that rejection was never a curse but a gift. It was the fire that burned away illusions, the storm that revealed inner strength, the darkness that made the light within undeniable. Without rejection, there would be no growth, no depth, no transformation. Hatred, too, becomes a mirror showing not one's own flaws, but the insecurities of those who project it. And so, the unshakable soul continues forward, undeterred. It does not seek to be loved by all, nor does it fear being hated. It simply exists in truth, anchored in something far greater than human approval. It moves with purpose, radiating a quiet strength that needs no recognition. And in doing so, it becomes a beacon for others, those who are still struggling to rise above, those who are searching for the same unshakable foundation. For in the end, the unshakable soul is not merely one who survives rejection and hatred. It is one who transcends them, who transforms them into fuel for something greater. It is a soul that cannot be broken, because it has already surrendered everything that could be taken. It stands, not in defiance, but in unwavering peace, knowing that nothing, no rejection, no hatred, no loss can touch the essence of who it truly is. The unshakable soul walks a path that few dare to tread. It is a lonely road, often misunderstood, yet filled with profound beauty. Those who choose this journey are not seeking comfort or the easy acceptance of the world. Instead, they are drawn by something deeper, a calling that cannot be ignored, a truth that demands to be lived, no matter the cost. One of the greatest challenges of this path is enduring the weight of isolation. When the world rejects someone, it does not do so lightly. It may begin with whispers, then grow into slander, until finally, silence surrounds the soul like an impenetrable wall. Friends may turn away, loved ones may distance themselves, and society may look upon such a person with suspicion or disdain. It is in these moments that the unshakable soul is truly tested. Will it break under the pressure? Will it compromise itself for the sake of acceptance? No, the unshakable soul does not yield. It embraces solitude as a sacred teacher. In the quiet, it discovers what many fear to face, the truth of its own existence. Without the distractions of approval-seeking or the noise of societal expectations, the soul comes to understand itself more deeply. It learns to be at peace with who it is, without the need for validation. But this peace does not come immediately. At first, the pain of rejection stings like an open wound. The human heart, no matter how strong, longs to be understood, to be seen, to be embraced. The unshakable soul feels this longing but does not let it control its actions. Instead, it transforms the pain into wisdom. It recognizes that the rejection of others is not necessarily a reflection of failure but often a sign of growth. The more one evolves, the more one stands apart. The greatest souls in history have all walked this path. The prophets, the sages, the visionaries, they were not celebrated in their time. Many were exiled, persecuted, and even killed. Yet, their legacies remain, not because they sought recognition, but because they remained true to their calling despite all opposition. The unshakable soul understands this deeply. It does not measure success by worldly standards, but by its own alignment with truth. However, being unshakable does not mean being unfeeling. It is not a state of cold detachment but of profound strength wrapped in compassion. The unshakable soul does not become bitter in the face of rejection. It does not harden its heart to protect itself from pain. Instead, it remains open, vulnerable yet invincible. It understands that true power lies not in resistance, but in surrender, not to the will of others, but to the higher purpose that guides its existence. There is a certain grace in this surrender. When one no longer fears rejection, one becomes truly free. Free to speak without fear. Free to love without expecting anything in return. Free to walk alone without loneliness. This is the paradox of the unshakable soul. It is both detached from the world and deeply connected to it. It does not seek to escape reality but to transcend it, to live in a way that is untouched by the fleeting judgments of others. This does not mean the soul is indifferent to suffering. On the contrary, it feels deeply. It sees the wounds in others, the fears that drive their hatred, the insecurities that fuel their rejection. The unshakable soul does not respond with anger but with understanding. It knows that those who reject and hate are often those who suffer the most. Their actions are not signs of strength, but of weakness, of wounds left unhealed. To rise above hatred, one must first see beyond it. Hatred is a mask, a defense mechanism used by those who fear what they do not understand. The unshakable soul does not take it personally. It does not react with hostility but with clarity. It recognizes the deeper reality behind the illusion. Forgiveness, then, becomes a natural response. Not because the unshakable soul condones the actions of those who harm it, but because it refuses to be bound by resentment. Forgiveness is not about excusing others, it is about freeing oneself. When the soul lets go of the weight of past wounds, it rises higher, untouched by the gravity of bitterness. The journey continues. As the unshakable soul walks forward, it no longer seeks to belong to the world. It belongs to something greater. It finds joy in its own being, in the quiet moments of stillness, in the unseen victories of remaining true to itself. The approval of others becomes irrelevant, not because the soul does not value connection, but because it has found the ultimate connection, one that cannot be broken, one that does not depend on external circumstances. Yet, despite its detachment, the unshakable soul does not abandon the world. It moves through life with a quiet strength, offering light where there is darkness, love where there is hatred, and peace where there is turmoil. It does not seek recognition, yet it inspires. It does not seek leadership, yet others follow. Not because it demands loyalty, but because truth has a power that cannot be ignored. There is something magnetic about a soul that cannot be shaken. People may not always understand it, but they feel its presence. Some will be drawn to it, seeking refuge in its unwavering peace. Others will be repelled, threatened by what they cannot control. This is the way of things. The unshakable soul does not force itself upon anyone. It simply exists, radiating its truth, whether others accept it or not. And in the end, what remains? When the noise of the world fades, when the voices of critics fall silent, when all external illusions dissolve, what is left? The unshakable soul stands, unmoved, unchanged. Not because it is rigid, but because it has already surrendered everything that can be lost. It has let go of the need for approval, the fear of rejection, the chains of resentment. It is free. This freedom is not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of it. It is not the avoidance of pain, but the transcendence of it. The unshakable soul does not seek to escape suffering, but to transform it, to use it as fuel for something greater. It turns wounds into wisdom, rejection into resilience, hatred into compassion. And so, it continues forward. Not as a warrior fighting against the world, but as a silent force of truth moving through it. It does not seek victory, for it has already won the only battle that matters, the battle against the self. It has conquered the need for validation, the fear of being alone, the illusion of external power. It is whole, complete, and unshakable. The world may never recognize such a soul. It may continue to reject, to misunderstand, to oppose. But it does not matter. The unshakable soul does not seek recognition, for it is already seen. Not by the eyes of the world, but by the infinite presence that knows all things. It does not seek love, for it already is love. It does not seek belonging, for it already belongs to the eternal. And that is enough. The unshakable soul walks forward, neither looking back with regret nor forward with fear. It exists fully in the present, grounded in an inner stillness that no storm can disturb. This is not a state achieved overnight, nor is it a gift given freely. It is earned through fire, through trial, through the relentless choice to remain true despite rejection, hatred, and suffering. At some point, every soul that seeks truth must face the ultimate test, standing alone. The world may abandon, mock, or resist, but the unshakable soul does not waver. It has already made peace with solitude. It understands that loneliness is not the absence of people but the absence of alignment. Most people live attached to illusions, dependent on approval, and afraid of being cast out. But the unshakable soul has severed those chains. It does not require permission to exist as it truly is. This freedom, however, is not without cost. There are moments of deep sorrow, when the weight of misunderstanding feels unbearable. When the world turns away, when even those once trusted withdraw, the pain can be immense. But the unshakable soul does not resist this pain, it embraces it. It understands that suffering is not an enemy but a guide. Pain reveals the limits of attachment, forces growth, and clears the way for a higher awareness. There is a quiet revolution in the unshakable soul. It does not fight with weapons, nor does it seek revenge against those who cast it aside. Its power lies in its ability to endure, to transform wounds into wisdom, to rise without bitterness. This is strength beyond physical force. It is the strength of unwavering presence, of truth that does not bend under pressure. The art of rising above. How does one rise above hatred and rejection? It is not through resistance but through mastery of the self. The world will always test those who seek to live authentically. The moment one steps beyond the expectations of others, opposition appears. Some will question, some will doubt, and some will attack. The weak retreat, seeking comfort in conformity. The unshakable soul presses forward, not out of stubbornness, but out of an unbreakable commitment to truth. The first key to rising above is detachment. One must detach from the need for validation, from the desire to be understood, from the fear of being alone. This does not mean isolation or indifference, it means freedom. When one no longer depends on external approval, rejection loses its sting. When one no longer seeks acceptance, hatred becomes irrelevant. The second key is forgiveness. True strength is not in holding grudges but in releasing them. The unshakable soul does not carry the weight of resentment. It sees hatred for what it is, a projection of another's pain. To respond with anger is to lower oneself to the level of those who hate. But to forgive is to rise beyond, to remain untouched by the poison of bitterness. The third key is self-mastery. The unshakable soul is not controlled by emotions, nor does it react impulsively to the negativity of others. It moves with intention, aware that every moment is an opportunity to transcend. Even when insulted, it does not retaliate. Even when betrayed, it does not collapse. It remains firm, rooted in something deeper than momentary emotions. And finally, the fourth key is alignment with a higher purpose. A soul that has found its purpose is unstoppable. It does not measure success by worldly standards. It does not seek to prove itself to those who reject it. It simply continues, driven not by ego but by something greater than itself. The unshakable soul knows that it does not walk alone, even when the world turns away. There is a presence that walks with it, unseen but undeniable. The transformation of pain, rejection and hatred are painful, but they are also purifying. They burn away illusions, revealing the core of one's being. Many people live in fear of these things, avoiding discomfort at all costs. But the unshakable soul sees pain as a teacher. Instead of resisting suffering, it surrenders to its lessons. Each wound, each betrayal, each moment of exile becomes fuel for transformation. The soul is refined like gold in fire, purified until only the essence remains. The weak are broken by suffering, the strong are shaped by it. The unshakable soul emerges from hardship not weaker, but stronger, more compassionate, more aware, more deeply connected to its purpose. And in time, something remarkable happens. What once seemed like rejection is seen as redirection. The doors that closed were never meant to be entered. The people who turned away were never meant to stay. Everything that felt like loss was, in truth, a clearing of the path. The unshakable soul does not dwell on what was lost. It walks forward, knowing that nothing real can ever be taken. The power of silence. There is great power in silence. The unshakable soul does not waste energy arguing with those who cannot see. It does not defend itself against baseless criticism. It does not engage in battles that drain its spirit. Instead, it moves in silence, allowing its actions to speak. The world often mistakes silence for weakness. It assumes that the loudest voice is the strongest. But true power does not need to be proven, it simply is. The unshakable soul understands this. It does not need to convince anyone of its worth. It exists in its truth, knowing that time will reveal all things. In silence, the soul finds peace. It is not disturbed by the noise of the world, nor is it distracted by the opinions of others. It listens, not to the voices outside, but to the stillness within. And in that stillness, it finds everything it needs. Living as an unshakable soul. To live as an unshakable soul is to live beyond fear. It is to move through life with a quiet confidence, unbothered by rejection, untouched by hatred. It is to love without condition, to forgive without hesitation, to stand firm without arrogance. This is not an easy path, nor is it one that many choose. It requires strength, patience, and deep inner work. But for those who walk it, the reward is immeasurable. There is a peace that comes from knowing that nothing external can shake what is truly real. There is a freedom that comes from releasing the need for approval. And there is a joy that comes from living in alignment with one's highest truth. The unshakable soul does not seek recognition, yet it is noticed. It does not seek to lead, yet others follow. It does not seek to fight, yet it overcomes. This is the paradox of true strength. It does not force, yet it cannot be moved. And so, the unshakable soul continues, walking not with pride, but with grace. It does not look back with resentment, nor does it fear what lies ahead. It simply exists, fully present, fully alive, fully free. For in the end, what else matters? The opinions of the world fade. The judgments of others pass. But truth remains. And the unshakable soul stands in that truth, untouchable, unbreakable, and eternal.